Recently, I discovered that the Eastern churches make no distinction between baptism and confirmation. They are simply one and the same sacrament and occur simultaneously. Such an approach certainly conveys the underlying commonality of the two sacraments, both of which initiate us into the life of the Spirit. Indeed, at the baptism of Jesus, we see the Holy Spirit hovering over the baptismal waters in the form of a dove. So why then has the Western Church seen fit to separate these two sacraments of baptism and confirmation, often staggering them by several years? A possible answer to this lies in the Easter season itself, which is bookended by two separate occasions when the disciples receive the Holy Spirit. The first occasion, when the disciples receive the Holy Spirit, is on the very evening of Easter Sunday itself. Jesus enters the upper room and breathes on the terrified 11, saying to them, "Receive the Holy Spirit." The moment is intimate and personal. The focus is on transmitting the forgiveness of sins. The second occasion, when the disciples receive the Holy Spirit, is right at the end of the Easter season, on the Feast of Pentecost, sometimes described as the birthday of the Church. And the occasion couldn't be more different. Far from being intimate and personal, the reception of the Holy Spirit on this occasion is very much a public and collective affair. The whole Church is gathered expectantly under the tutelage of Mary, and the Spirit arrives in the form of that fire which John the Baptist had foretold, and which centuries later the Carmelite St. John of the Cross would describe as the living flame of love. Not only does the whole Church receive the Holy Spirit together, but the outpouring of the Spirit overflows into missionary activity. For the most immediate effect of the Holy Spirit is to bring the communion back into the community, breaking down the barriers that keep people apart and forging a new spiritual unity. Personally, I've long been fascinated by the Pentecost Babel diptych, the idea that Pentecost, bringing as it does a melting away of language barriers between people, represents an undoing of the separation and conflict brought about by the introduction of separate languages at the Tower of Babel in the book of Genesis. On the eve of Christ's Passion, the Gospel of John prophesies that the death of Jesus will reunite the scattered children of God, and this is precisely what we see at the Feast of Pentecost. Everything about the modern sacrament of confirmation, then, points to the connection with Pentecost and stands in contrast to baptism. While baptism tends to be an individual affair, confirmation is typically administered collectively to a large group of believers. While baptism is officiated by a priest or deacon, confirmation always requires a bishop who stands in representation of the wider church. While baptism focuses on individual matters of divine affiliation and forgiveness of original sin, confirmation commissions the believer to become an active member of the church, providing spiritual gifts that empower the person as an apostle. Despite this extraordinary mandate, confirmation is sadly a sacrament that we too often and too early forget. And for a growing number of young people these days, it often signals the end of their engagement with the Church. The key question for us then is, how do we go on living the reality of our confirmation for the rest of our lives? Blessed Marie Eugène, a Carmelite friar living in France during the 20th century, was particularly attuned to the ongoing life of the Holy Spirit. In his book Au souffle de l'esprit, he says, the Holy Spirit effectively prolongs and completes here below the mission of Jesus Christ. Just as the life of Jesus was entirely guided and directed by the Holy Spirit, so from the moment of our confirmation, the Holy Spirit similarly takes possession of us. The Holy Spirit, which, as Blessed Marie-Eugène says, is the soul of the Church, then becomes the soul of our soul, the life, the source, and the light of our soul. For indeed, our soul is designed to be the home of the Holy Spirit. What this means in practice is that the Holy Spirit, indwelling in us, can work through us a unique apostolate that God has conceived specifically for us and that cannot take place without us. But all this is only possible if we collaborate with the Spirit. For those of us who have been confirmed then, attentiveness to the promptings of the Holy Spirit becomes a solemn responsibility. That is why Blessed Marie-Eugène insists that there can be no fruitful apostolate without contemplative union with God, for it is only in contemplation that we become attuned to this breath of the Spirit. Let us always remember then the awe-inspiring commission that is laid upon us at the moment of our confirmation. For whereas baptism makes us children of God, confirmation makes us members of the Church, Christ's body, and enlists us in the Church's mission of drawing all into the unity of the Holy Spirit.